It's been said that the true measure of any civilization depends not on its art, literature, or philosophy, but rather on its toilets. That's right, toilet technology tops everything else. For this reason, the archaeology and history of bathrooms has become a popular subject of study in recent years. Let's dive into this technology together. One of the essential skills for navigating modern life is knowing where to find the nearest toilet. The consequences for failure can be catastrophic. Fortunately, there are helpful signs everywhere to accommodate the needs of the 8 billion people now peeing and pooping on our tiny planet. Calculating the total amount of human waste deposited each day is revolting, and yet our capacity for keeping most of that tonnage off our streets and sidewalks is one sure measure of our technological progress. Even so, more than 200 million tons of sewage flow untreated every year into our lakes, rivers, and oceans. Surely we can do better. But just how well did earlier civilizations handle, let's call it, the byproducts of our biological history? How did people go, and where did it go in the ancient world? It all started with a hole in the ground. With no more flourish than a house cat in the litter box, early humans invented the simple hole in which to deposit and hide their biological business. They might dig a shallow one-timer or excavate something substantial for continued use. Although very low-tech, this solution has been around a very long time. I know this from personal experience. The dark, creepy, spidery, smelly outhouse we all used at my grandma's old home sat upon such a hole in her backyard. Going to this bathroom was an act of courage. You never knew what lurked under that old wooden seat. For toilet paper, we tore pages from old Sears catalogs. That's not the worst choice, however, as you will soon discover. None of this you wanted to do at night with no lights, so after sunset we used the tried and true technology of the chamber pot, which Grandma called a slop jar. This innovation takes us all the way back to the Bronze Age civilizations of 4,000 years ago. Simple chamber pots made homes habitable, and they remained common among the Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans. This is an illustration of someone using a pot that was painted on a pot. Wealthy homes were equipped with a stone toilet, some with a contoured slab seat, under which a bucket of sand was placed that was later dumped. The Sears catalog had yet to be invented, so the Greeks wiped themselves with small stones or broken pottery, and they called these pessoi. There actually exist some nice painted Greek vases that illustrate the use of pessoi. A Greek proverb about being thrifty advises that 3 stones should be enough to do the job adequately. Ouch. Try to remember this ancient remedy during our next crippling shortage of toilet paper. But don't forget the hemorrhoid cream. What about ancient potty training? Well, the same civilization that gave us rock wipes came up with this brilliant invention, our large ceramic potty chair. This one was excavated in Athens, and it worked like this. You sat your toddler in it and waited for the deposit to be made. You could offer encouragement, as on the lower vase painting, or if you were busy, you gave your child a rattle so they could signal when they had done their business, as shown on the upper vase painting. All this seemed very civilized. In ancient Rome, grown-ups had fun too, with toilets like this one. You could pretend to be racing in a chariot while your bowels were moving too. Some things never seem to change. Novelty commodes aside, the technology of portable chamber pots still met the household needs of most Romans, although city dwellers found the pots potentially dangerous. The writer Juvenal complained that it was unsafe to walk the streets at night because people were always dumping their chamber pots out of upstairs windows. You might arrive at a dinner party drenched in someone else's sewage. Some people were actually killed when pot dumpers lost their grip and the whole thing hit a pedestrian below. Even worse were the intentional uses of saved-up pots of human feces in times of war. During the siege of Tyre by Alexander the Great, his enemies high up on the walls of the city dumped upon his men an evil concoction of boiling water, sand, and excrement. Many of Alexander's troops were either scalded to death or later died of horrible infections. Yikes! Let's get back to the Romans. It's time to talk not just about latrinae, the Roman private toilets, from which we get the word latrines, but also about foracae, their infamous communal public restrooms. Think of the difference between your clean and comfy bathroom at home and, say, the crowded, overused facilities at a bus station or sports stadium. Long lines are not the only things you might be standing in. That sort of ambiance may explain an imperial edict by the Emperor Tiberius, who made it unlawful on penalty of death to carry any coin bearing his predecessor's portrait into a public bathroom. Since you did have to pay to use the public facilities, maybe you spent those portrait coins outside to get inside. Let's see what you got for your money. An attendant takes your coin at the door as some serious smells waft out to meet you. The interior is noisy and dark. People are laughing, talking, arguing, telling jokes, and taking their time relieving themselves. No one seems worried that one of those periodic explosions might take place when the methane gases built up in the Roman sewers and sent fire up through the toilet seats. Here there are 50 seats side by side, just inches apart, with no partitions, and every one seems occupied as you wait your turn. As your eyes adjust to the dark, you see there's a vacant spot near the back where you can just squeeze in. You fumble your way down the line and settle yourself over your hole in the long communal bench. No one seems shy or embarrassed, not even the occasional female patron venturing in from the busy streets as the need arose. You hope no rats or snakes crawl up to meet you, and that the seat itself is not too filthy. These facilities were not designed for modern sensibilities, and of course they lacked something else in this intimate setting: modern toilet paper. There aren't even any Greek pessoi stones here. No, when in Rome, as they say, you do as the Romans did. So what do you do? Perhaps you've noticed a basin full of sticks with sponges attached to them. The Romans called this device a tersorium, and they used one, or rather reused one, to wipe themselves clean. I hope you grabbed one before you sat down. It would be awkward to keep your toga clean while tiptoeing over to fetch one after you've done your business. And handle your dripping tersorium carefully. Some think that the inattentive mishaps that must have taken place might explain their phrase, getting the wrong end of the stick. Some archaeologists think the slotted hole in the toilet bench is there to let patrons use this toilet brush for the butt without having to stand up. Others believe the slotted hole functioned like a urinal so that men could pee while standing. Maybe it did both. As water was running through channel A and carrying away your waste, the water flowing in channel B was used to rinse out your tersorium. I hope you haven't accidentally stepped in channel B or spent too much time downstream from other patrons. After swishing your tersorium as a courtesy for the next user, you put it back in the basin. Think of it as recycled toilet paper as you make your way outside. As unpleasant as the foracae may be, they are connected to an engineering marvel, the incredible Cloaca Maxima, Rome's vast underground drainage system. Constructed early in the city's history, it was greatly expanded as the urban population rose to and then above 1 million inhabitants. The cloaca's dark and deep channels could be inspected by boat beneath the buildings and streets of the city. Water from aqueducts flushed the bathhouses, open sewers, and foraci into this network of subterranean canals that emptied directly into the Tiber River. Downstream, one Roman's hygiene was another Roman's health crisis. Yet the cloaca ranks among Rome's greatest achievements. Everyone talked about it, and rumors spread about all sorts of strange things lurking down there, just like our modern stories of alligators in the sewers of New York City. Urban legends around the Roman Empire spoke of a giant octopus that used the sewer system to sneak around at night to steal. Therefore, people privileged to have private toilets chose not to connect them directly to the Cloaca Maxima. These, like simple chamber pots, were dumped outside into street gutters, or the contents were sold as fertilizer. Graffiti shows us that many people did not bother to use either public or private facilities. They simply squatted in an alleyway or outside the walls of someone's house or shop. We can read on the side of one house, "Please hold it long enough to relieve yourself someplace else." Another graffito declares, "May Jupiter strike down the person who defecates here." A poetic version implores, "Take your dump with good health and cheer, just don't do your pooping here." My PG translation of the Latin does not do justice to the grittiness of these graffiti. Clearly, no one wanted number 2 anywhere on their property, but number 1 might be a different story. A few Roman entrepreneurs actually encouraged folks to take a whiz right outside their shops, where they placed buckets to encourage urination. Why? Because these were laundries that needed the urine to clean the clothes of their customers. So in these few moments, I've taken you on an ancient technological tour from a shallow hole in the ground to a vast system of subterranean tunnels that could carry off 1,000,000 pounds of Roman excrement every day. I'm Dr. Frank L. Holt, asking you to subscribe to this channel for more explorations of our distant and not so distant past. I've seen worse suggestions scribbled on bathroom walls, so I'll see you next time.